Hi, my name is Tanner, and I'm the MetaZoo keeper. And we're going to be talking about today what MetaZoo is, and then also my thoughts on its current situation. Right now it's April 6th. I don't know when this is going to hit YouTube, but this past week we've seen a lot of interesting stuff happen with prices on eBay for MetaZoo cards. And that's something that a lot of people are concerned about and they're interested in because they're worried that they're losing out on an opportunity. And I really want to answer those questions for people who are new to this community, what's becoming a pretty large community already. First and foremost, what is MetaZoo? MetaZoo is not a card game. It's not a TCG. Or at least right now it isn't. It's made up of cards and boxes full of cards, and those cards can be played in a game, but nobody's doing that right now. It's not really being played as a TCG. Maybe it will be someday in the future, and I hope we can find a point where as a community we accept that this needs to be talked about like a trading card game. But right now it's a lot closer to collectible art. And this is something that immediately raises red flags for a lot of content creators and a lot of people involved, both in distribution and with YouTube and other kinds of digital content creation around TCGs, because it isn't behaving like a normal TCG would. In order to play with the cards in MetaZoo, in order to use MetaZoo as a card game, you have to risk taking hundreds of, possibly thousands of your dollars and playing with them on a kitchen table surrounded by sometimes water, dirt in the form of plants, and like other random meta things that the game requires. It means playing with them while you're eating candy, or blowing those cards across the table in order to produce certain effects in the game. And nobody's doing that because right now the cards are so expensive that no one can afford to. None of the cards at this point have any utility. There's no MetaZoo meta, ironically enough. It's just cards, boxes, and other things that are being assigned value. And the reason why that raises a lot of red flags for people is because it's supposed to be a card game. And that card game consists of playing creatures onto a battlefield, much like you would in Magic the Gathering or in Pokemon. And then it also consists of these meta elements, which is what I was referencing earlier. You can take, certain environmental or surrounding conditions and use them to buff or debuff or alter the game state and the game board. And that interaction has a lot of people excited, and for good reason, because there's really nothing else on the market right now that does that. There's a lot of people who love that, and that's kind of a great reason to get involved. At the same time though, MetaZoo currently, it isn't that. It's not being played in that way. And so to call it that at this moment would be inaccurate. The hope is that one day it will be primarily that. It won't be this financial mechanism. But currently it seems like that date is far off, in the summer at the earliest, and potentially later. There's a lot of people who talk about, things like the cryptids that make up the set and the different creature types that they've chosen. And there's a lot of people talking about the art style too, and both of those things factor in a lot for why the card game is as successful as it is. But functionally, I don't think that they impact MetaZoo's identity or potential successfulness in the future nearly as much as what I just stated does. I think that a lot of content creators have been, touting belief in cryptids as this kind of like MetaZoo badge of honor. Like you have to believe in Bigfoot in order to be a part of the MetaZoo community, or at least like pretend that he's real. But I don't really see that as a huge part of the future of MetaZoo. In terms of what I see as most important, the name itself, MetaZoo, I mean, like, that first part, meta, is really where the game takes its identity from. Beyond that, I think that the cryptids are a great marketing opportunity for the game. It's something that differentiates it from Pokemon. Cryptids are important to a lot of people. There's a lot of communities built around them, but I don't really feel that they're that much more important other than this kind of recognizable folklore. For me, I think the idea that a new version of 90s and 2000s era Pokemon can come out and be financially successful and draw attention from this large group of people while at the same time having a goofy, almost board game-like gameplay, which we don't even know yet, but that's what the marketing says, right? So that comes to another problem that I'll probably get into talking about in another video, but everyone's talking about the marketing. Nobody's actually played the game. A lot of people who don't even own cards are talking about how it's cool because it's like an unset, but nobody knows. Nobody knows what it's like to play, unless you've played it. If you've played it, comment below, please. But I mean, I don't know anyone who has said they've played it. Nobody can get enough cards to play the game because they're too expensive, which is its own problem. But I'm still excited about it because the idea of an unset or a goofy kind of board game concept being done in a trading card format, that really makes me interested. And a lot of people in the trading card game community are already looking for an alternative to Pokemon. In many ways, MetaZoo is still in its Kickstarter. It's up to Mike Waddell and the MetaZoo team to turn that energy, that momentum, and all of that money into a functional game. And once they do that, I will gladly play. And that's what makes me excited, because I think they can do it. And if they do, I think that the entire TCG community is going to have a lot more fun and be a lot better off than they were before. Anyway, like I was saying, let me know, comment below if you have played MetaZoo. I haven't met anyone who has, on the Discord or otherwise, actually played the game. But if you have, and if you've played a few rounds, how is it? Is it fun? Do you enjoy it? How does it compare to something like an unset? Do you feel like the meta element is big enough to where you were doing meta things while you were playing the game in order to affect the board state? More videos are going to be coming out soon. I really want to talk at some point about how the financial kind of situation, has arisen from a Kickstarter campaign system that really doesn't produce a lot of winners. I really want to make a video about art and flavor and how that has affected Magic the Gathering and Pokemon as it's changed over time, and why it's provided an opportunity for games like Flesh and Blood and MetaZoo to be able to come out with such roaring and explosive popularity. If this all goes to zero, and if there really isn't a market for MetaZoo, a year down the road or 2 years down the road, and all of this time and energy that I'm spending turns out to be for nothing, I don't think I'll regret it. But if this does take off, and if the faith that I have in MetaZoo and in the creators that saw this opportunity is rewarded, then I will certainly regret not doing this stuff. The motivation behind the game is completely valid. If nothing else, I think that deserves some attention.